It's time for another edition of the Buccaneers Mock Draft. Casey Phillips here with senior writer and editor Scott Smith. We do one of these every week leading up to the draft. You and Carmen Vitale go through your entire first 32 picks. We break it down. And, we'll just full disclosure. We had already shot this whole thing. And then, people got to make trades and make our lives complicated. It's ridiculous. I don't know why they don't think of us first, Scott.
We could have waited one more day and then we could just claim ignorance.
Yeah, it's true.
This was a mock draft before we knew.
Exactly. But now it didn't change the fact that you still have those first 4 picks as quarterbacks in that first little grouping.
That's right. And the only difference between this and my last mock draft, which I also had 4 quarterbacks in the top 4, is that I had to engineer 2 trades to make that happen the first time. But now San Francisco has gone and done it for themselves in reality for the 3rd pick. And I continue to believe that it's going to be like 2016 when the Rams first traded up to 1 and then the Eagles traded up to 2 well before the draft started, just to get everybody in place for the quarterbacks they want to take. So in this case, I have a team trading up to 4 and San Francisco is already in place in 3, but the Sam Darnold trade to Carolina means one of those 5 top quarterbacks escapes the top 10.
And then you definitely have a lot of offensive tackles going compared to especially some of the earlier mocks.
Yeah, and I think I've seen that not just in mine, but in a lot of mock drafts. There's a really good depth at the offensive tackle position this year. And, maybe not quite as top heavy as last year when the Bucs, and a bunch of other teams got those first 4 guys. But there's a lot of teams that need that. And there's a lot of pretty good prospects there. So I have 7 of them going in the first round this time. And I also found the way this happened with all the quarterbacks going high, that there's some really good receiver value in the second 10 picks of the draft. And for the Buccaneers, I know we're waiting for that at the last pick of the round. I have a new pick I've never done before, and it's a developmental player on defense that could be big help down the road.
I like that. Look at that tease. We'll get to that in just a second. Okay, for now, let's look at that first segment, those first 8 picks. We already talked about that run on quarterbacks to start it out there. And originally, you had Carolina taking a quarterback with their pick at number 8. Now they don't have to do that.
Yeah, well, there is one change in my top 4 quarterbacks there, because after San Fran traded up, there's been a lot of speculation that they are specifically going after Mac Jones of Alabama, who in every mock draft you see just about is or was the 5th of the 5 quarterbacks off the board. I don't know if I quite believe the rumors yet, but the one thing that does lend it some credence to me is the news that the 49ers also tried to trade with Atlanta and Cincinnati, or at least discussed it at 4 and 5. And if you're willing to move up to 5 in order to get a quarterback, then you must like who everybody thinks is the 5th quarterback, right? Because that's worst or best case scenario, however you want to say it, is who you're going to end up with. So for now, I'm believing the hype, but we'll see as we go over these next 2 weeks. And yeah, Carolina having now landed Sam Darnold, and that's their plan going forward at quarterback, they can use that 8th overall pick instead on a big need on their offensive line, which I have them doing there with Rashawn Slater of Northwestern.
Absolutely. Okay, well, how about the second segment of them, the next 8 picks? You mentioned that there were a whole bunch of wide receivers that were going to be available at this middle part of the first round because of all that run as well.
Well, yeah, it's Jalen Waddle, who I have going to Philly at number 12, which is great for them after they traded down. It still worked out that way. And then I have Devontae Smith, the Heisman winner. I had him drop to 15, and at that point, Tennessee, about 6 or 7 picks down, who really needs some pass catchers after losing 3 of them in free agency. Like, it's close enough. We got to take our shot and move up to get this guy. So that's what I had happening there.
And then this is where you have a run of cornerbacks, which anybody who has watched you long enough to know around the draft, it seems like this would be your choice. This is what you would have everybody do. And you always think you cannot draft enough cornerbacks.
You cannot have enough cornerback depth, and you very rarely have enough cornerback depth. So it's always good to keep trying. And yeah, this is where it starts to go here. Atlanta gets the first one, Patrick Surtain, and then right after that, J.C. Horn goes. And at the end is another Northwestern player, Greg Newsome, to Arizona. So there's 5 cornerbacks in my first round, but this is where they are concentrated, the top tier.
And the third segment, next group of 8 players, this is where you see another bit of that tackle run you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. And like, for instance, Minnesota, who I had moving down so that Washington could go up. I didn't even mention that in the last one. Washington, because Trey Lance fell, traded up to get their quarterback, which they probably didn't think was going to happen a couple weeks ago. Minnesota moves down after the first maybe top tier of tackles goes, but they still are in line for that next group. In their case, they go with Tevin Jenkins, and Indianapolis goes with Sam Cosmi to replace the retired Anthony Costanzo. And then Pittsburgh gets a tackle, which is what apparently their fan base really wants.
That's true. Yeah. And then, all right, the final and fourth segment that includes the Bucs pick. Take it away of why you feel like you mentioned this is a new pick for the Bucs for you. I mean, you're staying defense. That's been pretty consistent for you, but a new pick here for the Bucs.
Well, last time I actually did go offense with running back Travis Etienne. But yeah, I went back to defense here because Leonard Fournette resigned. And after basically everybody resigned, and you have your starting lineups intact, there's no real hole. There's no glaring need in Jason Light. I'm basing this, I have us taking Jason Oweh of Penn State, an edge rusher, based on the fact that Jason Light said last week, the Bucs are not only in a position to look at any position they want to on their board, but they also can really look at developmental players, and they will focus on their criteria. If they have 5 or 6 guys they're choosing from, which of these guys do we think is going to be the best player 2 years from now? And the Bucs can afford to do right now. And to me, that's what we're talking about with the Jason Oweh. He famously had no sacks at all last year, but he goes to his pro day and blows the doors off of it with incredible numbers. Now, is he a workout warrior, or is he a guy with a lot of talent that just the production didn't match yet and you can develop that? Here I'm saying it's the latter. The Buccaneers take a guy that maybe helps right away, but at least 2 years down the road should be an important player.
And I saw there's a bit of a run on edge players here. Did that affect who you were picking for the Buccaneers, knowing that?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. There was 4 guys in this final 8, and like one of them was Jalen Phillips of Miami, which I think is an intriguing player. So if he had been there and Jason Oweh, I probably would have gone with Jalen Phillips. But there was a bit of a run on that, so the Buccaneers grabbed their guy and developed him for the future.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us on this edition of the Buccaneers Mock Draft. Again, stay tuned here to Buccaneers.com, where Carmen Vitale and Scott Smith are going to be doing one of these every single week. So we'll see you next time.